Clementine felt her legs shake, and eventually give out. She didn't know if it was from shock, fear, or whatever drug those psychos had put in her system. Perhaps it was a mixture of the three. "See Clementine?" "Mark. What happened?" Clementine stammered. "What happened to your legs?" "Brothers." Mark managed to get out. "Oh shit. My gosh." There was so much blood. Clementine felt sick to her stomach, yet her legs were too unsteady to stand. "Don't eat dinner," Mark breathed out. Clementine felt dizzy. She gripped the door to pull herself to her feet. She needed to warn the others. Hearing Clementine's scream made everyone's blood run cold. Sean got to his feet. "I'm going to check on her." No, dear. Just relax. I'm sure she's fine," Brenda said. "She didn't sound fine," Sean said. "She must have got a little startled," Brenda replied. Sean looked unconvinced. "Did you hear her scream?" "Oh, sit down, boy. The girl is fine," Larry said. "We don't know that," Kenny said. "Kenny's right. We don't know if she's hurt or something," Lily said. "I'll go make sure she's okay." Kenny placed his fork down. Now, the girl deserves her privacy," Brenda said. "And she'll get privacy once I'm sure she's okay," Kenny said. "Would you sit your asses down? This lady has made you a meal. Where are your goddamn manners?" Larry said. "If Clem is in trouble, we need to make sure she's all right," Kenny snapped. "I'll be damned if anything happens to that girl." Don't eat dinner," Clementine suddenly exclaimed. The girl had stumbled into the kitchen, and as soon as she made it through the door, her legs gave out once more. Her head was spinning. "Clementine?" Kenny furrowed his brows. "You all right, darling?" "She's just feeling sick," Brenda said. "I'll take her upstairs to rest." Brenda got up and took hold of the girl's shoulders. No. Clementine tried to pull away, but she barely had the strength to keep upright. "What's wrong, Clementine?" Lily asked. Mark, Clementine stammered. "What about Mark?" Lily questioned. "That's enough chatter." Brenda hushed. "A nap will probably help you feel better, dear." "What wrong with Mark?" Sean demanded. "Is he all right?" Everyone fell silent. Clementine looked as if she would pass out any minute. Her only response was a shake of her head. "I should have known you folks would be trouble," Brenda muttered. Danny frowned and let out a sigh. "It didn't have to be this way." "What are you talking about?" Lily asked. "What is going on?" "Everything could turned out okay for you folks," Danny muttered, placing his fork down. "He would have died anyway. We gotta think about living," Andy suddenly exclaimed. "Settle down, honey," Brenda said. Everyone had stopped eating. Katja had to pull Duck's plate away from the boy. "Will someone please explain what the fuck is going on?" Kenny said. "Growing up in rural Georgia, you're taught not to waste. It's how I was raised and how I raised my boys. Now, you got monsters roaming around that do nothing but eat people. And for what? To continue to rot till they eat some more. We think we can put that meat to better use," Brenda said. "That's fucking sick. You're out of your minds," Sean said. "That's not very nice." Brenda sent him a glare. "Andy is right, we go after folks who are gonna die anyways, one way or another." "Like y'all," Danny said. "I shouldn't known you folks would go snooping around," Brenda muttered. "Get your filthy hands off my girl." Kenny sent the woman a glare and snapped at her. "We're getting the hell out of here." "Nobody's going anywhere," Andy said, aiming his gun at them. Danny aimed his gun as well. "We've got lots of use for y'all right here." What the fuck, Larry stammered, eyes darting back and forth in fear. "Put your guns down. We're walking out of here," Lily demanded, trying to keep the two men from shooting anyone. "Get your fucking hands off my girl. You don't go near my fucking family," Kenny snapped. "I don't wanna die," Duck whimpered, clutching to his mother. "Mommy, what did I eat?" It's okay, baby." Katja tried to reassure the child. "I won't say it again. Let go of her, or I'll fucking kill you." Kenny took a step toward Brenda, but Andy aimed his gun at him, stopping him from reaching his mother. Everyone's attention was suddenly grabbed by the sound of falling. Everyone looked towards the doorway to see Mark, who was dragging himself into the room. "Please, someone." Mark groaned out a plea for help, or perhaps to end his suffering. Gasp filled the room at the sight of their amputated group member. "Holy shit," Sean muttered. "Andy, Danny, get those folks outside, and then Danny, you can take the girl upstairs. Let her rest." Brenda motioned to Clementine. Danny smirked and gave a nod. Brenda brought the half-conscious girl to a chair and sat her down. "Don't fucking touch her," Kenny spat, trying once again to get to Clementine. "Don't you even think about it," Andy said. "Unless a few of you want to get shot, I suggest you get moving." "Where?" Larry asked. "You'll see," Andy replied. The group members got to their feet. With Andy's and Danny's guns threatening them, they started walking. Brenda said to Katja. "You and the boy stay." "Wait, what?" Kenny stopped upon hearing that, but Andy pressed the gun into his back. "Keep moving," Andy ordered. Kenny had no choice but to do as the man said. Clementine could barely keep her head up. Her chin kept dropping to her chest. She felt her eyes getting heavy and she could hardly make out what was being said around her. "Is she okay? What did you do to her?" Katja asked, looking concerned. "Don't worry about her. She's fine," Brenda said. Katja shook her head. "What did you do to her?" "We just gave her a little something in her drink. Danny will take good care of her, don't worry," Brenda said. As if cued, Danny returned to the room. "You take care of those folks?" Brenda asked her son. "Yes, Mama," Danny said. "All right. Go ahead and take your little girlfriend upstairs. She's nearly falling asleep at the dinner table," Brenda chuckled. "All right." Danny scooped the young girl up into his arms. Please don't hurt her. She's a child," Katja exclaimed. "He's not going to hurt her. Danny wouldn't hurt a fly," Brenda said. Katja had tears in her eyes as Danny made his way out of the room with the girl in his arms. "Now, relax," Brenda said again. Clementine felt Danny lay her on a bed. Her body was too exhausted to react much. The girl felt herself drifting in and out of consciousness. She could hear Danny shuffling around the room. She groaned as her head throbbed painfully. Then her eyes opened when she felt him plant a kiss against her cheek. The girl couldn't help but whimper. Danny shushed her. "It's okay, don't be scared of me." Clementine couldn't respond. She tried to keep her eyes from closing, knowing that if she fell asleep something bad was going to happen. "Just relax," Danny muttered. His next kiss was against her lips. Clementine wanted to throw up. "You didn't eat dinner," Danny said. "I'll go make us a plate." Clementine hoped he wouldn't force her to eat. If he did, she would definitely throw up. She heard him get off the bed and moments later leave the room. Her mind felt numb, she could hardly move. She was struggling to keep herself conscious. When Danny returned to the room, the girl was no longer responsive. He placed the plate down and checked that she was at least alive. She was. Without wasting time, he began to strip her. She was fully unconscious and Danny hoped she would remain that way for hours. If her intake of the chloroform was as much as he hoped, the girl would be nearly comatose. Danny finished undressing her, then stood by the bed and admired her body. He smirked. He was going to have fun with this one. The rest of the group found themselves trapped in a meat locker. Sean and Kenny started searching desperately for a way out, while Larry angrily pounded away at the door, and Lily began to vomit from the meat she had consumed. The old man was screaming his head off as he banged his fist against the solid door. "Open the goddamn door. You can't keep us in here. Open up." Lily wiped her mouth before turning to her father. "Dad, stop." Larry didn't. He continued to bang on the door and of course, there was no response, so he began to spew out threats. "I will tear you fuckers apart with my bare hands." Kenny groaned, sending the man a glare. "Will you stop that banging? We've got to find another way out of here." Larry ignored him as he continued to shout. "You sick fucking bastards. Open this door, goddammit. I will knock the goddamn door down." "Everyone just calm down," Sean said. "How the hell am I supposed to calm down? Those psychos have my family, those assholes got Clementine fucked up, and we're trapped in a damn meat locker. We gotta get the fuck out of here," Kenny said. "And we will," But you need to calm down, Sean said. There's got to be another way out. Yeah, Larry agreed. Through this fucking door. Dad. Please, stop. Lily pleaded. Will you all just shut the fuck up? Kenny snapped. You worse than the walkers. Larry groaned out. Dad, please, please, settle down, Lily said, knowing her father's yelling wasn't helping the situation. No. I'll rip their goddamn heads off, Larry spat, hoping someone outside heard his threats. Come on. Show yourselves. Dad, Lily exclaimed, but was ignored. There's more of us on the way. Let us out, now, Larry demanded. Larry, do you seriously want to attract their attention? Sean huffed, getting annoyed. Yeah. I want to attract their attention so I can fucking kill them. Larry replied and went back to banging. Lily let out a sigh. Dad, that's not gonna help. They're not gonna open the door. Larry still ignored his daughter's words. You think the fucking apocalypse give you the right to chop people into meat? Dad, this isn't helping. Lily tried to reason with her father. I'll break that damn door down, Larry snapped. His banging slowly became weaker as he was hit with a sudden pain. Dad. You can't get. Before she could finish, Larry started to groan in pain. Everyone looked on in concern as the man gripped his chest, before collapsing to the ground. Lily's eyes immediately grew wide. Dad? There was no response. Lily quickly dropped to the ground beside him, checking if he was breathing. Oh no, he's stopped breathing. I think he's had a heart attack. Shit. Kenny swore. Is he dead? He's not dead, Lily stated. Somebody help me. Kenny looked unconvinced. Fuck, if he's dead. He's not dead, Lily snapped. Kenny turned to Sean and said, you know what has to happen. Think about it. You saw that poor bastard at the motel. How fast he turned. What are you saying? Lily inquired. Lily, I'm sorry, I truly am. But in a few minutes, we're gonna be stuck in a locked room with a 6'4", 300-pound, seriously pissed off dead guy, Kenny said. Fuck you. We can bring him back. Sean, help me, Lily exclaimed. Kenny shook his head. We'll mourn him later. But right now, we have to keep him from coming back. God damn it, Kenny. He's not dead, Lily exclaimed. Lily can still save him, Sean said. I wish she could. Believe me, I do. But that man is dead. You both know what happens next. Kenny, listen. Sean started. Don't think I forgot about the drugstore, when they all thought Duck was bitten. Well, I'm just doing the same thing. Except Duck wasn't bitten, and we know this guy's not gonna make it, Kenny said. Remember what Ben said. Gotta destroy the brain. Kenny, you can't just kill him. Sean argued. I'm not going to kill him, Sean. He's already dead. Come on, man. You can't be in the middle on this one. You gotta have my back, Kenny said. Damn it, Sean. I need you. Please help me. Lily begged. Come on, Dad. Come on. Sean debated on what to do. He knew if Larry was still alive he had limited time to try to save him. Without further hesitation, he ran towards Lily and dropped to his knees beside her. Is he breathing at all? Sean inquired. No, I don't think so. Lily panicked. Let me take over. You keep checking his pulse, Sean said. Are you stupid? He's gonna turn. You're putting us all at risk, you son of a bitch. Kenny growled. Sean ignored Kenny's harsh remarks as he continued to give chest compressions. He and Lily both tried their best to get Larry breathing again. Kenny, however, had a different agenda. He made his way toward an area where several salt licks were stacked atop each other. Picking up one of the heavy object, he huffed in annoyance. You're fucking worthless, Sean. He made his way over and promptly dropped the salt lick on Larry's head. Sean's eyes grew wide and Lily let out an agonizing scream. Even Kenny looked shocked by what he had just done. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It had to be done. You don't know that. Sean argued. Yes, I do. And so do you. I was counting on you, man. Kenny shook his head in disappointment. He then knelt beside Lily. I'm sorry. I know it. Don't you fucking touch me, Lily spat, jerking away from him. Kenny sighed and stood back up. He knew he couldn't say anything after what he had done. Kenny. Just give her some time, Sean said. We don't have time, Kenny snapped. We need to get out of here. You think I like doing what I did? I'm the guy who couldn't bear to watch the family dog get put down. But if we wanna survive this shit, we gotta have the balls to do the hard thing. Or at least, one of us has got to. Sean sent him a look. You say that now, but would you be able to do the hard thing if it was cat jar or duck? It's never gonna come to that, not if I have anything to do with it, Kenny said. Sean looked unsure. For all we know, the St. John's might have. No. They need cat jar, remember? She's the whole reason they brought us here. And no doubt they're using duck as a bargaining chip, Kenny said. What about Clementine? Sean asked. I'm pretty sure they drugged her. You think she's okay? She's probably fine. She has to be. Clem's tougher than you think, Kenny said. I hope you're right. Sean muttered. I know I'm right. I just gotta get to that's all. Kenny replied. Okay, but if we're going to get out of here we've got to work together. How do you expect Lily to work with us after what she just saw you do? Sean asked. If she wants to live, she'll work with us. If she doesn't then the hell with her. Kenny responded. That's a bit harsh, don't you think? Sean asked. Well, that's what it's come to. Kenny scoffed. Sean sighed. He didn't know what to do. Clementine found herself shifting in and out of consciousness. She was in excruciating pain and a whimper tore from her throat. She could feel blood, warm and wet on her thighs. She felt the weight of a person on top of her and her gaze shifted to Danny who was groaning away. The girl tried to move away, but she didn't get far. Danny locked eyes with her, and gave her a smile. He ran inside her with a violent rush. He was well aware of her being awake and able to feel the brutal torture that he was putting her through. He just didn't care. If anything, it gave him more satisfaction. The man was pumping in and out of her with fast, deep thrust. He kissed her full on the lips and his hands roughly played with her small breast. Clementine gasped, wanting nothing more than to stop him, but too weak to do so. She was being raped. This sick asshole was having his way with her. Danny only made it worse as he started to talk dirty to her, telling her how tight she was, how wet she was. Clementine felt her stomach churn. She hated Danny. She truly did. Tears dripped down the helpless teen's face and that only turned Danny on more. He started groaning as he felt himself reaching his peak. She didn't know how long he continued to violate her, or how many times she passed out during the assault. She remembered hearing Brenda yell out Danny's name and everything finally stopped, and then it all went dark again. When Clementine woke again, she released a pained moan. It was several minutes before she was able to gain a sense of her surroundings. She whimpered slightly, pulling herself into fetal position. She was in so much pain. Every movement sent a jolt of pain through her body. After taking a few moments to pull herself together, she forced herself to get up, shuffling her way towards the door. It was locked. She swore, and while trying her best to ignore the pain between her legs, she searched for another exit. She caught sight of the window. It was large enough for her to fit through. Now she just needed a way down. She glanced to the bed sheets that were covered in blood. Her blood. Clementine winced, fighting back tears that wanted to fall again. She had no time to feel sorry for herself. She needed to make sure the others were okay. The girl searched around the room for her clothes. They were nowhere to be seen. She looked to the oak dresser and limped her way towards it. She dug through the dresser, finding a shirt and some shorts inside. She quickly dressed into it. The clothes were large on her, but they were better than nothing. She had heard stories of people tying sheets together and using them to escape burning buildings. She knew it was dangerous and only hoped she had enough strength to make it down. The girl went towards the bed and tore off the sheets. She tied the ends together before doing the same with the blankets. She tied it to a heavy dresser, before tugging the fabric to test the strength of the knots. She was scared, but she knew this was her only way out. Satisfied that the knots were secure, she went over to the window. She peered out and saw no one. She also took note that it was raining, and dark outside. As quickly as possible, she opened the window and tossed the sheets out the window. The sheets dangled a few feet above the ground. She would have no choice but to jump once she got to the end. Her eyes burned with tears and her throat tightened. She could feel her heart pounding. It was now or never. With some hesitation, the girl crawled across the windowsill. She took a deep breath, telling herself everything would be all right, before grabbing the sheet and slowly lowering herself out the window. She climbed as far down as she could before jumping. She landed in the wet dirt and grunted with pain. She quickly forced herself to her feet and kept walking. She knew she needed to get moving before Danny came back. Staying low, she moved along the perimeter of the house until the window was out of sight. She stayed quiet as she walked, jumping when she suddenly heard someone call her name. The girl looked quickly. Seeing Carly and Ben, she sighed in relief. Carly looked concerned as she took in the girl's appearance. "What happened to you? You look like shit. Where are your clothes?" Clementine shook her head. "No time." She was surprised at how weak her voice sounded. "Is everyone okay?" Carly asked. "You guys have been gone way too long. We need your help." "They attacked us," Clementine said. "Shit. When you guys didn't come back I figured something was up," Carly said. "What can we do?" "Katja and Duck were in the house. I'm not sure about the others," Clementine said. "They're probably trapped in the barn." "All right, we're coming in to help," Carly said. "The main gate is dangerous. There might be a back way in," Clementine said. "All right. You wait there," Carly said. Clementine started to protest. But Carly wasn't having it. "I mean it, Clem. Stay there." "Okay," Clementine muttered. Clementine waited anxiously for several minutes. She glanced around for something to use as a weapon. It was dark, but she figured the tool table might have something. Just her luck, she managed to find a hammer. She knew it was no match against a gun, but it was better than nothing. The girl clutched the hammer tightly as she waited for Carly and Ben. Just keeping herself steady took a lot of energy. Fortunately, it wasn't long before Carly and Ben arrived. "You said they were in the barn?" Carly asked. "I think so," Clementine replied. "Okay, stay close to me," Carly said, taking her gun out. The three headed towards the barn, catching sight of Danny sitting outside, talking to himself. He noticed them as well and reached for his gun. Carly had her weapon trained on him before he could grab it. "Shoot him," Clementine exclaimed. Danny raised his hands as Carly kept the weapon on him. "What the hell are you waiting for?" Clementine demanded. "You can't kill me, you gotta keep me alive. If you kill me, the meat gets tainted. You can't eat it," Danny said. "You're already tainted," Clementine spat. Danny snickered. "Then I guess that makes two of us, Clementine." "Shut up. I'll fucking kill you," Clementine hissed. "You don't have the guts, sweetheart," Danny stated. Clementine glared at him. Without hesitation, she lunged for his gun. Danny grabbed it first, but that didn't stop the young girl from charging at him. Clementine was hysterical as she began punching and kicking him. The gun spun from his hand and he tossed the young girl to the ground before trying to retrieve the weapon. Before either of them could grab it, Carly fired a shot, putting a bullet in Danny's head. Ben's eyes were wide. Is he dead?" he stammered. "Should be," Carly replied before walking towards Clementine. "You all right?" The girl was trembling and didn't respond. Carly frowned. "Keep an eye on her. I'm going to get the others." Ben gave a nod. "Be careful." "I always am," Carly replied. When she stepped into the barn, she saw no one. She continued towards the back door, opening it up. The sight was one that made her stomach turn. It was a slaughterhouse. Coughing from the smell, she walked through the blood-filled room until she came to a metal door. She tried the knob, but it didn't turn. Realizing it was locked, she quickly undid the lock and opened the door. "I'll fucking kill you," Kenny exclaimed. "Kenny, stop," Sean yelled, grabbing the man. "It's Carly." Kenny calmed down. The three living occupants looked surprised to see her. Carly frowned as she noticed Larry was dead. She could only wonder what had happened. "Duck and Katja, where are they?" Kenny demanded. "I don't know yet," Carly said. "They must be inside. Clementine told us you guys were in here." "Clem? Where is she?" Sean asked. "Ben's keeping an eye on her. Something bad happened to her," Carly said. "Something bad happened to all of us," Lily said. We can't stay here. I gotta make sure my family's alright, Kenny said before rushing out. The others made their way out as well. When they got outside the barn, they were surprised to see Danny with a bullet hole in his head and Clementine, who looked completely traumatized. Darling. Asked, are you okay? Kenny reached out a hand to touch the girl, but she flinched away. Clem. Suddenly they heard Katja give a yell and Kenny's eyes grew wide. Without wasting time, the man rushed toward the house. Kenny. Sean called. Go with him. We'll look after Clem, Carly said. Sean gave a nod and went to catch up with Kenny. He stayed low as he searched for Kenny through the darkness. He didn't spot the man, but he could make out voices. Something's up. I'm gonna take the boy and check around back, Andy said. No, please, don't take my boy. Katja pleaded. Let go, woman, Andy snapped. Settle down. I don't want to hurt you all. Sean caught a glimpse of Brenda at the door. The woman sounded nervous as she called, Danny, is that you? What's going on out there? Danny got what he deserved. Sean called back. Brenda gasped in horror. Sean continued toward the house. Let me go. He heard Katja exclaim. Sean arrived at the door and saw Brenda holding a gun to Katja's head. Get back. Don't come in here. You just had to go snooping around, didn't you? Brenda exclaimed, pressing her gun into Katja's head. Let her go, Brenda. Sean spoke in a calm voice as he opened the door. You don't want to do this. Sean, please, don't you take another step. Brenda switched the gun's aim towards him. She backed up, dragging Katja with her. Brenda, don't do this. Think about your husband, Sean said. Just go away and leave us be, Brenda snapped, as she continued to back up. As lightning flashed through the sky and lit the room, Sean noticed a zombified mark at the top of the staircase. He had a plan. Think about what you're doing. Just let her go. Please, Sean said. Please, listen to him, Katja said. I'll do it, Brenda said, backing up even more. I don't want to kill you, Sean. Sean continued to approach her until she backed up into the walker on the stairs. Brenda screamed as undead Mark sunk his teeth into her neck. Katja stumbled towards Sean as Brenda released her. They took Duck and Clementine's trapped upstairs. Where's Kenny? We got Clem. It's going to be okay, Sean reassured. I said don't move, asshole. Came Andy's voice. Don't you fucking hurt him. They heard Kenny snap. Katja rushed out without hesitation. Sean, however, went to grab the gun that Brenda had dropped when Mark grabbed her. He gave it a quick check for bullets before rushing outside. Andy was holding Duck in a tight grip by the back of the boy's shirt while Kenny shouted at him to release his boy. Andy, let him go. Sean called. Shut up, Andy yelled. Kenny ran at him and Andy fired a shot in turn, sending Kenny to the ground. Katja gasped and ran to her husband while Duck called to him worriedly. Who the fuck do you people think you are? Look at what you've done, Andy yelled. Just calm down. Let the boy go, Andy, Sean said. Calm down? What for, huh? Andy demanded angrily. All we wanted was some damn gasoline to keep ourselves safe. And all we wanted was some food. Sean retorted. You brought this on yourselves. No. You did, Andy snapped. You assholes ruined everything. Sean sighed, and raised his gun at the man. Just let the boy go. I don't want to do this. Fuck you. You wanna hide behind a gun? Why don't you fight me like a fucking man? Andy demanded. Sean shook his head. I don't want to fight you at all. This can all be over. Just drop the gun and fight me. Or I'll kill the boy, Andy threatened. You think you're tough shit? You want to waltz in here and fuck up my home? Well, then be a man and fight me. Sean hesitated before dropping the weapon. He didn't want Duck to end up hurt. Andy kept a grip on Duck as the young boy continued to whimper in fear. That's it. Now walk over here and... Before he could say another word, a gunshot silenced him, sending him to the ground and causing him to release Duck, who ran to his parents. Sean looked to Lily, who was standing with a shotgun at the door. Katja helped Kenny to his feet and hugged her trembling son. Kenny groaned in pain, then took a deep breath and turned to the nearby group members. You need some help? Sean asked. No. I'm good, Kenny said. Lily sent him a glare. In her mind, he deserved what he got after what he did to her dad. Sean looked around. Where are Clem and Carly? Still over by the barn. Lily muttered. Clem won't let anyone near her. Carly said she was going to talk to her and try to get her moving. Ben explained. We don't have time. Kenny grumbled. We need to get moving. Wait, Sean said. Wait for what? Lily asked. The walkers are getting in. Just wait, Sean replied. Without another word, he headed into the house. He went to the dining room and grabbed the stuffed rabbit. He figured Clementine might want it. He rushed back outside to see walkers were starting to approach the group members. The heavy rain had blown out the generators, leaving the fence ineffective. Walkers, that had been drawn from the noise, started to make their way through the fence. The amount of walkers was only increasing by the minute. The group knew they had limited supply of ammunition. We gotta get the fuck out of here, Kenny said. What about Clementine and Carly? Sean asked. They'll have to meet us back at the inn. We gotta move, Kenny said. The others were hesitant to leave, but they knew they had no other choice. Sean frowned. He only hoped Clementine and Carly would be all right. Meanwhile, Carly was trying desperately to get Clementine up and moving. The teen was not responding to a word she said. Clem, please. Carly spoke to the young girl. We gotta get moving. Clementine still said nothing. It was like she was in a state of shock and there was no snapping her out of it. The walkers were closing in. Carly didn't know what to do. Clementine. The woman called, not getting even the slightest reaction. Without any other options, Carly raised her hand and slapped the young girl. Clementine flinched and brought her hand to her cheek. The teen looked at Carly with a shocked expression and let out a few whimpers. I'm sorry, Clem. But we gotta get out of here, now, Carly said. Where is everybody? Clementine asked. I don't know, Carly said. What do you mean you don't know? Clementine questioned, looking worried. We can't look for them. There's too many walkers. We need to get the hell out of here, Carly said. But we don't have time, Clementine. I know you want to be sure the others are okay, but we can't do that if we're dead. We need to get to the motel. They'll meet us there, Carly said. Okay, Clementine muttered. Let's go, Carly said. Keep close. Clementine gave a nod. Most of the zombies were at the front of the fence. Carly and Clementine managed to get out through the back way. The two started towards the motor inn in silence. Clem, is everything okay? Carly asked the girl. I'm worried about you. Everything is fine. Clementine spoke in a tone that told Carly she didn't want to be bothered. Carly frowned and said, if you want to talk, I'm here. I don't, was Clementine's response. Carly let out a sigh. It was clear something awful had happened to the girl. The two kept walking through the dark woods until the moon, whose light they'd been relying on, hid away behind a blanket of clouds. With their path too dark to see, Carly decided it'd be best to stop. This isn't good. It's hard to see shit. We need to stop before we get lost. We can't stop. We need to get back to the motel. Clementine, there's no way we're going to get back when it's this dark. We need to stop. I don't want to, Clementine said. We need to get back to the other. The others are fine. We need to worry about ourselves, Carly said. It's so dark we won't be able to see any walkers. We can't take the risk to keep going now. Clementine sighed. Fine. Thank you, Carly said. After some more walking, they finally entered a little clearing and fortunately enough of the moon's light had returned to illuminate the area. The two checked around and found the area appeared safe. They decided to stop there. As soon as the sun comes up, we'll head to the inn. For now, try to get some rest, Carly said. Clementine didn't respond. The girl closed her eyes and tried to dream her worries away. It didn't take long for the young girl to drift off. Her dreams, however, were far from pleasant. She could feel Danny's hands on her. She felt sick to her stomach as she lived that nightmare all over again in her sleep. Clementine shot up with a gasp. She took a moment to let her heart rate slow. She caught sight of Carly, who was leaned up against a log nearby, asleep. Clementine looked around. Something wasn't right. Suddenly she heard the sound of a twig snap. Her heart leapt from her chest when she noticed an armed man step out of the woods, his weapon trained on her. He wasn't alone. Moments later even more men appeared from the woods. Clementine's eyes widened. She looked to Carly, who was awoken by the noise. "Don't move," one of the men said. "Neither of you." Clementine squeezed her eyes shut to the blinding circle of light aimed at her face. Taken hostage by these strangers, the teen was terrified. After what happened to her at the St. John's farm, she didn't know what to expect. The 5 men had taken their weapons and were holding them at gunpoint. Clementine could feel her skin crawl from the way the bandits looked at her. She had a bad feeling that they wanted something that Clementine didn't want to give. "She's a young one." One of the men motioned to Clementine. Clementine looked to the ground, trying to ignore them and avoid the blinding light beams that were aimed in her direction. "How old are you, little girl?" another man asked. Clementine didn't offer them a response. "Let me take a guess. I say you're about 13 or so, am I right?" the second man asked. Clementine still refused to respond. She wouldn't correct the man on his wrong guess. She instead sent him a cold glare. "Oh, she's a tough one?" The first man chuckled, stepped forward and grabbed her face. "You're quite a looker. And you got some pretty eyes." Clementine slapped his hand away. Don't touch me." "Oh, so you can talk?" the man scoffed. "I gave you a compliment, bitch. You should be thanking me." "Don't bother. Little brats like her are ungrateful," another man said. "Leave her alone," Carly said. "She's scared. If she's scared now, she's gonna be terrified soon." The first man stood up, aiming his gun at Clementine's head and said in a low, threatening voice, "Strip." When the group got back to the motel, they had hoped to see Clementine and Carly, who had split from them during the escape from the farm. However, the two were nowhere to be found. "Oh shit. We gotta find them," Sean said. Lily shook her head. "No one goes anywhere." Sean sent her a look and asked, "What? Do you want to get yourself killed? We already went through a bunch of shit." "No one leaves," Lily said. "If they don't come back by tonight, we'll look for them in the morning. Who knows what could happen by then? We can't just leave them out there to die," Ben said. "For all we know they're already dead," Lily replied. Kenny shot her a look. "Don't say that." "Why? It's not like you care about anyone but yourself," Lily spat. "You saw how many walkers there were. Who's to say they're still alive?" "Carly knows how to handle herself, and Clementine isn't completely defenseless either," Sean said. "My dad wasn't defenseless, but look what happened to him. He's dead," Lily huffed. The other side at that, Kenny looking guilty. "I'm not going to deal with this," Kenny murmured. "I don't want anyone leaving, especially not in the middle of the night. They know the way here, we just got to wait for them to get here," Lily said. Sean sighed, knowing arguing would be pointless. He just hoped Clementine and Carly were okay. When the word strip fell from that man's mouth, Clementine felt her stomach dropped. She had assumed these men want to do something horrible to them, and now her suspicions were confirmed. Please don't make me do this," Clementine pleaded. "You can do it, or we'll do it for you," the leader said. Clementine started trembling. She didn't want to go through this again. "Leave her alone. She's just a kid," Carly exclaimed. "That's the best kind," one of the men said. "Strip, girlie." Clementine let out a small whimper. She knew there was no point in fighting. They were going to do what they pleased regardless. Please don't make me." "Strip, girl." "I won't say it again," the leader said. "You people are sick. Fucking sick," Carly called. "She's just a kid." "Oh, shut it, lady. It'll be your turn next," another man snapped. "Take your clothes off, girl," the leader ordered to Clementine. When the teen shook her head, he slapped her hard in the face. The girl whimpered, bringing a hand to her sore cheek. "Hold her back, I don't want her doing anything stupid," he said to two of the men as he motioned to Carly. Carly tried to get away, but felt two of the men grab her by the arms, keeping her in place. Clementine's eyes flooded with fear. She felt herself being pinned down and her clothes being forced off by the remaining men. She tried to struggle away, but it was no use. She tried to scream, but one of the men placed a hand over her mouth. Carly tried to tear her gaze away. She felt completely powerless. "Oh no you don't," one of the men said to her, forcing her to face Clementine's direction. "Watch." As one of the men started pulling Clementine's pants down, he smirked and announced to the others, "She's not wearing any panties. What a dirty little girl." Clementine whimpered a bit more. She had just thrown on whatever clothes were nearby after the experience with Danny. She just wanted to get away from him. She didn't think this would be happening again. One time had been more than enough. Before long they had completely stripped away her clothes, leaving her nude and at their mercy. Clementine clenched her eyes shut, trembling as the disgusting men practically drooled over her body. "Let her go. This is fucking sick," Carly exclaimed. "Shut the fuck up," one of the men snapped at Carly. Hearing Clementine's little cries and seeing the girl's struggles was killing Carly. She had to do something. Clementine kept fighting as the men started to fondle her. She was embarrassed and terrified. She just wanted everything to be over. One of them leaned down. He whispered into her ear in a calm voice, "Stop fighting, or things are going to be a lot worse for you." Carly was repulsed. These sick fuckers were trying to get off with a child. They were like a pack of wolves gloating over a trapped baby deer. She wanted nothing more than to shoot them all. She had a plan. She only hoped Clementine would understand what she was about to do. With one swift movement, she stomped one of the men's foot and elbowed the other in the groin, causing both to lose their grip on her momentarily. Carly took advantage of the quick release and made a dash for the woods. "Hey!" The one whose foot had been stomped yelled. He tried to make a grab for her, but wasn't fast enough. The second man had his hands over his abused crotch and was groaning in pain. The man on top of Clementine let the girl go. "You fucking idiots. Go after her," he ordered to the men that were recovering from the blows they received. The two quickly composed themselves and ran into the woods after her. Clementine's eyes widened and she forced herself into sitting position, covering her body. Carly couldn't be leaving her. There was no way. Her concern shifted back to the three men surrounding her as the leader forced her back to the ground. "You didn't think I was done with you, did you?" he asked, making Clementine's heart skip a beat. "Get back here, damn it," one of the men yelled as they chased after her. Carly continued running forward. She could hear them getting closer and pushed her legs to go faster. It was so dark she could barely see where she was going, and she found herself tripping over rocks and pushing branches out of her way. Finally, she ducked behind a large tree and listened carefully. Footsteps sounded close by her. Carly held her breath, staying hidden for a good few moments. "Shit. Where the fuck did she go?" one of the men grumbled. "We'll spread out." She couldn't have gotten far. The other man said. "All right. I'll check this area," the first man said. Carly peeked out from behind a tree. She saw the second man turn to take off. Now both men had their backs turned to her. She took the chance to leave her hiding spot and approach the closest man. She grabbed his gun-wielding arm. A shot went off, hitting the second man in the back. "What the fuck?" the first man exclaimed. Carly acted quick, delivering a kick to the back of his knee, causing his leg to buckle. As he hit the ground, she took the chance to track the gun from his hand. She aimed it at his head and without hesitation pulled the trigger. "How's it feel to know your friend ditched you?" the leader asked with a chuckle. Clementine closed her eyes, whimpering a bit more. She didn't ditch me." "But she did. I don't see her, do you?" the leader replied. Clementine fought the urge to cry. "They've probably caught her by now," the leader said. "You belong to us. We're going to use you as we please, you can enjoy it." Clementine winced as he gave a hard thrust. "Or not," he finished. Suddenly, they heard a gunshot rang out, quickly followed by another one. "Looks like your friend is gone," he muttered. "Sorry, sweetheart. It's just you and us now." Tears did come now, and no matter how hard she tried, Clementine couldn't stop herself from crying. Sean knew he wouldn't be able to stop worrying if he didn't keep occupied. When the rest of the group started to head to bed, he offered to take watch for the night. He wouldn't be able to sleep anytime soon. Hours had gone by and Carly and Clementine still hadn't returned. Countless thoughts flooded his mind, making him anxious. He wondered what could have happened to the two. They could have ran into walkers, or bandits, or maybe even the owners of that van. He regretted that the group took the supplies from the van. Even though it looked abandoned, they didn't know who it truly belonged to, and that worried Sean. He debated on going out to look for Carly and Clementine. He knew going out this late was risky, but he wanted to be sure they were okay. He glanced over to the motel rooms. He figured the group members would be asleep soon. If Carly and Clementine didn't return within an hour, he was going to go looking for them. "Do we gotta take her back? Why not just keep her to ourselves?" one of the men sighed. "You know it's only right to share. Besides, the others will be pissed if they found out we caught a good one and hid her away," the leader said. "I guess you're right," the other man said. "I am. It's bad enough we already lost one," the leader said. "Come on, let's get back to the camp." "What about the others?" the third man asked. "They know the way back. Ain't no need to stand around waiting for them," the leader replied. "Come on, let's get a move on." Carly checked the men's bodies for other weapons. She found a knife on one of them. She checked the gun she was holding's ammunition. She wouldn't use the gun until she needed to. She picked up the flashlight that the first man had dropped. She was grateful to have it. She turned the light on and quickly started to navigate her way back to the area where the other men were keeping Clementine hostage. When she got back, she noticed the men were no longer there, and neither was Clementine. Carly did her best not to panic as she searched the ground for their track. Upon finding some footprint, she started to follow them. Carly knew she wouldn't be able to just sneak attack them. She was one person and it was too much of a risk. She couldn't take the chance of getting herself caught again. She had to be smart since she was clearly outnumbered. Carly made sure to carefully trail after them, keeping behind cover just to be safe. She tried not to use the flashlight too much. She didn't want them to notice her. She kept following the tracks, and hoping the Clementine would be okay. Clementine was barely conscious as they arrived at the camp. She was scared when she noticed all the men at the camp. They were eyeing her like a piece of meat, making her feel self-conscious. She felt a surge of anger and hatred for them. She wanted to kill every last one of them. She wanted to make them suffer. "Sit here." The man carrying her tossed her to the ground, causing her to hiss in pain. "Be a good little girl." "Fuck you." The words left her mouth before she could stop herself. The man sent her a glare and knelt in front of her. "What was that?" "I said, fuck you," Clementine snapped. She received a harsh hit for her words. A red bruise blossomed on her cheek almost as soon as he dropped his hand back to his side. "We're going to have to fix that mouth of yours, kid. It's filthy," he grumbled, then turned to walk away. Clementine shivered from the cold air on her unclothed body. She tried to cover herself the best she could. She was hurt, embarrassed, and freezing. She jumped when she suddenly heard soft whimpering. Looking to her side, she noticed a young girl wrapped in a blanket. "Hey, are you okay?" Clementine compassionately inquired of the whimpering child. Oblivious of or ignoring Clementine's presence, the child didn't move or respond. Clementine inched a bit closer, ignoring the pain that shot through her body, ignoring the blood that was dripping to the ground from her abused crotch. She hesitantly placed a hand on the child's covered shoulders and felt the kid flinch. "Hey," Clementine said again. The child still didn't respond. "I'm not going to hurt you." "That's what they said too," the girl finally muttered from under the blankets. "I promise," Clementine said. "I'm not like them." The little girl didn't respond. Clementine took a gentle grip on the blanket and tried to pull it from the girl's head. "Stop!" the little girl exclaimed. I'm sorry," Clementine stammered, immediately retracting her hand. I didn't mean to startle you. Leave me alone. Please," the girl pleaded. Clementine sighed and obliged. It had been too long. Far too long for them to be gone. They should be back by now. Sean felt sick as he kept thinking of the possibilities of what could have happened. He knew he couldn't leave the camp unattended and he didn't want to tell Lily he was leaving. That left him to rely on Ben. Fortunately, Ben was just as worried as he was, and although he admitted that he thought Sean going alone was a bad idea, he agreed to take watch. Sean grabbed a gun and a flashlight and headed out to search for them. He hoped he wasn't making a mistake. It was so unfair. How could those assholes sit by the fire and eat, while she and this little child were tossed to the side to freeze. "Are you cold?" The girl's little voice suddenly pulled Clementine out of her thoughts. She looked to her side to see the child's head was no longer buried under the blanket. "Yeah, kind of." She was freezing, but there was no point in complaining to a child. "I'll share," the little girl muttered. "Huh?" Clementine asked. "The blanket," the little girl said. "We can share it." The blanket was small. Clementine didn't think sharing it would work. "I'll be okay, don't worry." The little girl furrowed her brows. She unwrapped the blanket from around herself, revealing that she also had no clothes. The small girl placed the blanket onto both of their legs. "See? We can share it," she said again. Clementine gave a small smile at the child's kind gesture. "Thanks." "You're welcome," the little girl said. "I'm Clementine. What's your name?" Clementine said. "My name's Danielle," the little girl answered. "How old are you, Danielle?" Clementine asked. 7. "How old are you?" Danielle replied. Clementine flinched. She was so young. She felt sick, knowing these bandits had no morals. "I'm 15. "You don't look it," Danielle said. "I know," Clementine muttered. The two were quiet for a few moments before Danielle asked, "Are you warm now?" She wasn't, but she appreciated Danielle's kindness. "Yeah, I'm much better. Thanks, Danielle," Clementine said. "Are you warm enough?" "Yeah, I'm okay," Danielle said. "That's good." Clementine hesitantly wrapped an arm around the small girl. Danielle tensed at first before moving a bit closer. Danielle frowned as she glanced over to the bandits. "They took me from my mum." "When?" Clementine asked. "A few days ago," Danielle said. "I miss her." Clementine frowned. She remembered the woman from the woods mentioning having a daughter that was taken. Danielle must have been her missing daughter. "It's okay," Clementine said. "I'll protect you." "How?" Danielle questioned. I just will. Trust me," Clementine said. But they'll hurt you," Danielle said. "They already have." "I'll be okay, don't worry," Clementine said. "Just stick close to me." "Oh okay," Danielle said. With a bit of struggle due to the darkness, Carly continued to follow the tracks until she eventually stumbled upon her camp. She stayed back as she peered from the trees, taking account of how many bandits she was up against. There were at least 7 of them at this camp alone, and she was sure they had other campgrounds. She knew she would have to lay low and come up with a plan. Carly kept her eyes sharp as she watched the men, trying to figure out a way to get Clementine and the young girl. When the men finally started to turn in for the night, Carly knew now was her opportunity to do something. She couldn't run out there and shoot them. She had to do something to get their attention long enough for Clementine to run. She noticed a truck parked on the edge of the road. She could break the window and use that as a distraction. She waited a little while longer until most of the bandits had settled down to sleep before she picked up a rock and hurled it towards the truck. It was just her luck that the rock broke a window, setting off the alarm. The shrill noise pierced the air, startling all the bandits. She watched the men fan out to check the area. She knew it wouldn't be long before the noise brought the undead. That's exactly what she needed. Danielle had fallen asleep surprisingly fast. She felt safe in Clementine's grip. Clementine was glad when she noticed their captives started to head to bed as well. All except one man who stayed on guard. Clementine glared at them. If she could get her hands on one of their guns, she would shoot them all without hesitation. The girl thought about approach the man who was on guard and literally fighting him for that gun, but the fact that Danielle was at her side kept her from doing so. It would be a bad move, Clementine knew that. Suddenly she heard a crash, followed by the loud blaring of the truck alarm. The bandits were startled awake, as was Danielle. "What the fuck's happening?" one of the men exclaimed. "Turn that damn thing off," another yelled. The bandits started arguing as they tried to figure what had set the alarm off. What's going on?" Danielle asked, rubbing sleep out of her eyes. Clementine could only think of one person to have done this. "Carly. We're being saved." It didn't take long for the loud noise of the truck alarm to start drawing walkers. With the bandits focused on the undead, Carly took the chance to rush into their camp to Clementine. "Carly," the teen exclaimed. "I knew you were alive." We gotta get moving, Clem. Come on. Carly helped the girl to her feet. We don't have any clothes, Clementine stammered, motioning to Danielle. Carly looked to the little girl who was clinging to Clementine and huffed. She unzipped her coat and offered it to Danielle, who put it on. Clementine was able to wrap the blanket around herself, while keeping a protective grip on little Danielle. Let's go. Hurry, Carly said. Hey! They're getting away. One of the bandits shouted, noticing them making an escape. With his attention on them, he didn't notice the walker creeping up behind him until it was too late. Run! Carly ordered to the two girls. Both injured, Clementine and Danielle found it hard to run. It didn't matter much though, since the walkers soon completely had the bandits' attention. The trio managed to get away from the bandits' camp, but now the walkers were their main concern. Carly shot and killed as many walkers as possible. They kept moving, avoiding the walkers as they did. Clementine continued stumbling along, feeling lightheaded from blood lost. She didn't notice Danielle anxiously looking around, or when the child lost grip on her hand. They're gonna get us, Danielle cried, throwing her hands over her ears. There's too many of them. Danielle, you have to be quiet, Clementine muttered in a weak voice. I'm scared, Danielle exclaimed. Clementine's eyes widened when she noticed a walker inching closer to the 7-year-old. Without hesitation, she rushed forward and punched the creature, causing it to stumble back. The blanket dropped to the ground, but Clementine was too focused on Danielle to care. Are you okay? She asked Danielle. Danielle gave a small nod. You gotta stay close to me, Clementine said. Sorry, Danielle said. Clementine cut herself off with a gasp when she felt the same walker she had pushed back before grab hold of her arm. Before she had the chance to tug away, she felt its teeth sink into her skin. Her heart pounded, her eyes wide. She had been bit. Clementine snapped back into reality and kicked the walker back, breaking from its grip. Carly, who had been shooting approaching walkers, turned and noticed Clementine struggling. Clementine, out of the way, Carly called to the girl. Carly aimed her weapon in the direction of the walker. The gun clicked over and over again before she realized that nothing was coming out. Shit. Remembering the knife she had, she pulled it out her pocket and slid it to Clementine. Clementine quickly looked to the blade and grabbed it, using it to kill the walker. Clementine caught her breath and drifted her gaze to the spot on her arm where she had been bitten. Bitten. She was bitten. She wanted to cry. She knew what happened when someone got bit. Clementine, are you okay? Carly asked. I'm fine. Clementine quickly dropped her arm. She wasn't ready to die. Not yet. Danielle watched her with an expression that Clementine couldn't read, but the child said nothing. Clementine was sure she knew about the bite. She had been right beside her when it happened. We can keep moving. Clementine called to Carly, picking up the blanket with a shaky hand. She wrapped it around her body, which was trembling uncontrollably. They continued walking for a while. Clementine could feel her muscles start to quiver with each step she took. Her head ached, as if she had been hit by a hammer. Within only a matter of a few minutes she was starting to feel like shit. Still, she forced herself to push forward. She tried to convince herself that she was fine, but she knew that wasn't the case. She was bitten. There was only one outcome for people when bitten, and Clementine wasn't looking forward to it. Every step she took was absolute agony. Her head was spinning and she felt sick to her stomach. She was dying. She was sure of it. Each time Carly offered they stop, Clementine refused. She didn't want to hold them back. She couldn't put them in danger. Just because her fate was set didn't mean she was going to drag them down with her. They continued walking in silence. Clementine didn't register Danielle ask if she was okay. Nor did she notice the motor inn was right in front of them when her legs gave out on her. She didn't notice Sean run up to her. Every voice sounded muffled and things were just a blur. She felt herself being taken into someone's arms, then everything went dark. When Clementine awoke, she found herself laid upon a bed. She was dressed in a large t-shirt and some shorts that was a bit big for her. For a moment she panicked, scared that she was back within that sick freak, Danny's room. However, a voice calmed her. Take it easy. Sean spoke up. You've been out since yesterday. Why yesterday? Her throat felt dry as she spoke. Sean noticed and offered her a water bottle which she quickly accepted. Where's Danielle? And Carly? They're fine, Sean said. Carly's been keeping to herself. I'm not sure what happened, but Katja checked the kid for injuries and fed her. She's sitting with Lily. You got a pretty high fever. You need to rest. Clementine frowned. Rest won't help. I'm dying. Don't say that, Clem. That's not true, Sean said. It is, Clementine mumbled. Believe me. You're just sick, kid. That's all, Sean replied. I'm not a kid, Clementine said. I'm tired of hearing that word. What happened at the dairy farm? Sean asked the girl. Clementine's expression turned dark and the girl refused to respond. Clem? What happened? Sean asked, looking worried. I don't know what you're talking about, Clementine said. I want to be alone. Please. All right, Sean sighed. I'll get you something to eat. Clementine said nothing as Sean took his leave. She buried her head in her pillow, fighting back tears. When Sean returned with her food, she didn't acknowledge him. He placed the meal beside her bed and left the room. Her meal went from warm to cold and she didn't even glance towards it. Clementine had been drifting in and out of sleep when Katja stepped into the room to ask the girl how she felt. Clementine hadn't heard the woman's words at first, but she flinched when she felt Katja adjust the blankets around her. It's just me, sweetie, Katja said. How are you feeling? Clementine lied when she told her I'm fine. She was far from fine. Clementine felt horrible. She knew what a bite did to a person. Still, she couldn't bring herself to tell anyone. Katja checked the girl's forehead and frowned. Your fever still hasn't broken. This is the second day. I'm fine, Clementine claimed weakly. How's Danny? She's a quiet girl. Hasn't talked much to anyone, but I think she's starting to warm up a bit. She played with Duck for a little while, but both the kids were worried about you. We let her have some of Duck's clothes. They're big on her, but I figured it'll work until we can get some more, Katja said. Katja placed a wet rag on her forehead, telling the young girl that she would grab her some medicine. Clementine told her not to. I'm okay, really. Save the medicine. There was no point in giving valuable medicine to someone with a bit. Sweetie, that medicine might help you, Katja said. Clementine shook her head then immediately regretted the action as her head started aching. I don't need it. Katja sighed, but didn't push further. If you change your mind let me know. Okay, Clementine said. Katja left the room and Clementine was alone once again. Clementine's heart pounded as she found herself unable to move. Pinned beneath a figure, she tried to struggle away but it was no use. She felt his filthy hands touch her body and she tried to break free. He wouldn't stop. Whimpers fell from her lips and finally she managed to let out a scream. Stop. Clementine woke with a start, her eyes wide, her body drenched in sweat. She hadn't remembered falling asleep. Her heart thumped in her chest as she took a couple deep breaths. Her head was spinning from sitting up so fast and she suddenly felt nauseous. The girl groaned and laid back down. Clementine. The door quickly opened and Kenny rushed inside. We heard a yell. Are you all right? Kenny asked. I'm fine. I just had a nightmare, Clementine said. What was it about, darling? Kenny asked. I don't want to talk about it, Clementine said. That bad, huh? Kenny asked. Yeah, Clementine said. Want me to stay here with you for a bit? Or I can leave the door open? Kenny offered. Clementine huffed. He was treating her like a little kid again. She knew he didn't mean to, and as much as she appreciated him for caring, it sometimes annoyed her. I'm okay, Kenny. Don't worry about me. How about you try to rest some more? Katja thinks you got the flu, Kenny said. Why yeah. Okay. Clementine wished it was only the flu. Throughout the day, the girl found herself drifting in and out of sleep every 10 minutes or so. People would come in and out to check on her, but Clementine barely noticed them. She was too sick to pay attention. By nightfall the teen lay restless, trying to sleep, but unable to. The room felt like it was spinning. She felt completely awful. Her attention was grasped however, when she heard a small knock at the door. See come in, she said weakly. The door opened and Danielle stepped inside. "Hi," Danielle said. Hey. Are you okay?" Clementine asked. No. I'm worried about you," Danielle said. "Are you going to be okay?" Clementine took a breath before speaking. "Danielle. You know I'm bit, right? But you'll be okay. You're a good person. So the bite shouldn't work on you," Danielle said. "If only that was true," Clementine said. I don't want you to turn into a monster," Danielle stammered. "I'm not going to turn," Clementine said. Danielle furrowed her brows. "You're not?" "I won't let that happen," Clementine said. "What will you do?" Danielle asked, looking a bit confused. Clementine didn't respond to the child. "Listen, whatever happens to me, just know you'll be safe with this group. Kenny and Katja, they'll be good at looking after you. They won't let you get hurt ever again. I want you to look after me," Danielle said. "I'm sorry, Danny," Clementine simply mumbled. Danielle began whimpering. Clementine sighed and gently took the child's hand in attempts to comfort her. "I don't want you to leave me," Danielle mumbled. "I don't want to leave you either," Clementine said. "But promise me, whatever happens, you'll listen to the group and stay safe." I promise," Danielle said. Thank you," Clementine said. "Can I sleep in here?" the little girl asked. Clementine paused. I don't think that's a good idea, Danny." "Why not?" "It might be dangerous," Clementine said. "You're not dangerous," Danielle said. "I trust you." "I don't trust myself," Clementine said. "What if I turned in the middle of the night?" You won't," Danielle sniffled. "There's a chance. And I don't want to risk hurting you," Clementine said. Danielle frowned at that and began whimpering again. Clementine tried to comfort the girl, to no avail. "Danielle, please calm down." Clementine sighed. "I'll let you stay." Really? "Really," Clementine said. "But you have to promise to leave if I start acting strange." "Okay," Danielle said. "Good girl," Clementine said. "Let's get some rest." The younger girl nodded and laid down. When morning came, Clementine awoke with a sob from a nightmare so vivid and intense. Her heart pounded wildly and the tears wouldn't stop flowing. She didn't notice Danielle stir beside her until the young girl spoke. "Are you okay?" Danielle asked. Clementine turned away from her, trying to calm herself. I'm fine." "Did you have a bad dream?" Danielle questioned. "Why do you ask that?" Clementine asked back. "You're crying," Danielle said. Clementine quickly wiped her tears away. "I wasn't." "Are you sad?" Danielle asked. "I have bad dreams sometimes too. About the bad men. Sometimes I dream about my mommy. I miss her." "I'm sure you do," Clementine said. "Bad dreams aren't real. Just remember that. But they can still be scary. Your dream made you cry," Danielle pointed out. "Do you miss your mommy?" Yeah, I do," Clementine answered. "Where is she? Is she nice?" Danielle asked. "She was really nice." She's in Savannah. With my dad," Clementine said with a frown. "Oh. I hope you see them soon." "I hope I see my mommy soon too," Danielle said. "Well, maybe your mom will find us here," Clementine said. "I hope so," Danielle said. Clementine knew it was unlike, but she would crush the child's spirits. Danny, go play for a while. I want to stay with you." "I'm not going anywhere, just go, okay?" Clementine said. "Okay," Danielle agreed. Danielle left the room, leaving Clementine alone. Breakfast was quiet that morning. Carly had seated herself a bit away from the group. Danielle was playing with her food, nibbling at it listlessly. "Everything okay, kid?" Sean asked. Danielle looked to Sean, who had a concerned look. "Why, yes. All right." Sean stood picking up a bowl of oatmeal. "Where are you going?" Kenny asked. "I'm gonna bring Clementine some food." "I think she wants to be alone," Danielle said. "Well, she's got to eat something," Sean said. "Why does she want to be alone?" She had a bad dream," Danielle said. She was crying last night. And she cried this morning too. Sean frowned at that. Ala, go make sure she's okay. Okay, Danielle said. Sean headed to Clementine's room with a bowl of still warm oatmeal. When he knocked, he got no response at first. He knocked twice more, before a small voice finally said, "Come in." Sean entered the room and looked to the figure on the bed. "Hey Clem." "Hey," Clementine said back. "I brought you some food." Sean showed her the bowl. "I'm not hungry," Clementine muttered. "Well, you gotta eat something. You can't keep skipping meals," Sean said. "I'm not hungry, Sean. Give it to someone else," Clementine said. Sean sighed and placed the bowl on the nightstand. He stood by the bed. "Danielle said you wanted to be alone. She said you were crying. Can I ask why?" "I wasn't crying," Clementine claimed. "Why would I be?" "That's my question," Sean said. "What's going on, Clem?" "Nothing," the girl muttered. "You've been off since we left the dairy. Something bad happened. What was it?" Clementine trailed off, eyes filling with tears. "What happened, Clem? You can tell me." Clementine shook her head, whimpering out, "I can't." "Clementine, talk to me. What did they do to you?" Sean asked. Clementine didn't respond. Sean took a seat beside the girl and reached out to touch her shoulder. Clementine immediately flinched. "No." Sean quickly retracted his hand. "I want to help you. Talk to me, kid. You had nothing but a blanket when I found you. What happened?" Clementine kept quiet for a moment. "Fine, if you don't want to talk, I won't force you. But you gotta eat something." "I don't want any food. I just want to be alone," Clementine said. "I just want it to all be over." "You don't mean that," Sean gasped. "Yes I do," Clementine said. "I have nothing to live for anyway." "Of course you do. A lot of people care about you," Sean said. "That doesn't matter. I told you I was dying," Clementine said. "And I told you stop saying that," Sean said. "It's true. I'm bit," Clementine suddenly exclaimed. Sean's eyes widened. What? I got bit. I'm going to die, Sean," Clementine said. "We specifically asked Carly. She said you had no bites," Sean said. Clementine quickly motioned for him to quiet down. She didn't want everyone to hear. "She doesn't know. She didn't see it happen," Clementine said. "Then why has she been so distant?" Sean asked. "Because she saw those guys." She stopped herself mid-sentence. "I didn't tell anyone about the bite because I figured it'd be better if I kept it to myself. I don't want people to make a big deal out of it." "It is a big deal," Sean said. "I know it is. But I don't want it to be," Clementine replied. This can't be happening," Sean said. I need you to do me a favor. Please," Clementine said. "What?" "When I say I'm ready, I need you to." Sean interrupted her. "Don't even finish that sentence. There's no way I'm gonna do that. Please, I don't want to turn, Sean. I don't want to be a walker," Clementine begged. Sean lowered his gaze and shook his head. "I can't, Clem. I can't go through this again." "Then I do it myself. Just give me a gun," Clementine said. "Clementine, just think this through," Sean pleaded. "I don't have time to think it through," Clementine said. "I'm not scared to die. I have nothing to lose anyway. I've lost my family, my friends, my home, my virginity." Sean was surprised as she muttered that last part. "This wasn't how I thought my life would be. Nothing turned out the way I thought it would," Clementine said. "I'm tired of watching the world around me die and suffer." "Clem. Can I ask you something?" Clementine said. "What?" "Does it always hurt that bad?" Clementine asked. Sean quirked a brow. "What are you talking about, Clem?" "Sex. When Danny did it to me, it hurt really bad. And when those people in the woods..." Sean looked horrified as the girl's words processed in his mind. "Hold on, Danny. Danny raped you?" "I guess that's what they call it. But I didn't fight back. So was it really rape?" Clementine frowned. "Oh my gosh. Fuck," Sean said. "Danny wasn't the only one. There were these guys in the woods. She trailed off. I'm so sorry, Clem. I had no idea, Sean said, gently taking her hand. Clementine just whimpered. Sean pulled the girl into an embrace, feeling her tense up slightly. He did his best to comfort the girl as she began to sob into his shirt. It's all right, Clem. It's all right. After a while, silence fell over them. Maybe 10 minutes passed before Clementine spoke again. If you can't shoot me, can you do me a different favor? Clementine asked. That depends on what it is. I'll try, Sean said. The girl hesitated a bit before saying, make me forget. What? Make me forget what happened at the dairy. Make me forget everything, Clementine said. How do I do that? Sean stammered. Clementine responded by simply pressing her lips against his. Sean's eyes widened and he gently pushed her back. Clem. I can't do that. Why? Because you think I'm a kid? Clementine asked. Why you are. And you're not thinking straight right now. You don't want this, Sean said. I do, Clementine said. I want to know what it's like to have sex with someone you like. Not being forced. Sean resisted the urge to panic. Clementine, I can't. Is it because I'm ugly or something? The girl inquired. What? You don't want to be with me because I'm ugly? Clementine asked. Sean quickly shook his head. No, it's not that. Then what is it? Clementine asked. Clementine, I like you. I really do. But it's wrong. You're a kid, Clem, Sean said. I'm not a kid. Quit calling me that, Clementine said. I haven't been a kid since the world went to shit. Why, you're young, Clem. Too young, Sean said. I don't want to take advantage of you. You won't be, Clementine said. I want this. Clem, you're just saying that. Your emotions are just mixed up right now, Sean said. Clementine pulled up her sleeve, revealing the bite. This seals my fate. I'm going to die. I'll never get to experience this. Sean was quiet for a moment. Asked, are you sure you want this? Are you really truly sure? I want this, Clementine whispered, kissing him. Sean froze, unsure of what to do. Clementine broke the kiss and slowly began stripping from her clothes. See, Clementine. Take me.